It is the Balsamic moon, which means we are about to wane into a new moon, which is a new lunar cycle, and I'm so ready for it. Literally since the last quarter moon, which is when the moon starts to wane back into the new moon, I have been dealing with like old behavior and old ways of being in the world. So I've been sitting with a lot of lethargy in my body, a lot of depression, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and my mind thinks that it's never gonna end and I'm just like in the worst space. But when I'm doing lunar work and I remember that I'm in a container or the lunar cycle, that this is just part of the process, and what's happening here is an awareness is coming forward for me, where I have spent most of this cycle living a new way because of the intention I set at the new moon. And as such, my nervous system, as we slow down, as we start to descend back into stillness and listening so we can be ready for the new moon, my nervous system is being like, hey there, do you remember this way of being? Do you remember when we used to just like bulldoze our way through a month and, you know, try to tackle all these tasks and do it through stress and cortisol and like push and go and efforting? Do you remember that? So that's like, that came like up in my nervous system, and instead of pushing it away or even becoming it, I allowed it to move through me. And that really looked like laying in bed when I felt lethargic. It really looked like not doing the thing that my brain was like, we have to do this thing like right now. It looked like taking a step back, getting outside of my house, or laying in bed, or reading a book, or doing something completely like non-productive, as my brain would label it, and allowing it to just move through me. This last lunar cycle was a wild ride. There were times of joy and expansion and ease, and there were also times of contraction, collapse, and dis-ease. My new moon intention was to come into balance and harmony. So often with this work, my new moon intention is powerful but vague. It often takes a couple of days for the intention to take root and develop more. But with this lunar cycle, it was quite clear what was ready to come through. Perhaps it was due to all of the work of the previous cycles, or the energies were just right this lunar cycle. I'm not sure, but whatever the reason, this one felt really clear, and I was resolved to answer the call. Balance and harmony were my anchor words, but I knew what was being born within me was a new way of being in this world and in my life. And the focus was on ease. As the moon grew into its crescent phase, my own cycle was calling me inward. I was getting ready to bleed, and this caused a lot of tension because the moon was waxing. I was biologically waning, but it was my first initiation into the medicine of this particular lunar cycle. Each morning I sit in stillness. Sometimes it is for a couple of hours, and other days it is just a few moments. Regardless, I begin my day trying to listen to what is going on inside of me. It is here I ask myself what is most important. It is here I remind myself of the intention I am working on. The question was, would I listen to my cycle and my own pace, or would I put the pressure of the external world first? In the days leading up to my bleed, I chose to slow down, to set down the doing and the projects that I had going on, and to give myself over to what wanted to come through. And all I heard was go slow and connect with the earth. So I affirmed my intention for balance, ease, and harmony, and I gave myself permission to go commune with my new garden bed and finally plant the seeds I've been wanting to plant for the season. It was here that the grounded energy from the new moon was really embodied for me. While planting, I was overcome with the process. My mind quieted, my body diligently worked, and deep within, my soul was singing to the sound of peace and what it means to truly be. All time slipped away. Who I was fell away, and I was just another organic piece of life communing with the rest of life around me. Over the next several days, I let that experience take root inside of me, just as the plants and seeds were doing so in their own soil. And without much else than water and a whisper of encouragement here or there, many of the seeds had already begun to sprout, not just in my garden bed, but also within my soul. It was an incredible moment of insight for me. Growth doesn't need to come from all of this efforting. Rather, in the right conditions, and even this can be flexible, growth is an effortless outcome if we just allow nature the space and time to do her magic. The seeds of my intention for harmony and ease were already taking root, and I was learning what it meant to truly flow with life, rather than push against it, control it, or effort myself through it. That was the first initiation, to keep the thread of my intention from the new moon alive as the moon grew, to not go back to the old ways of doing and being, to not forget. With the coming of the waxing quarter moon and my bleed, I was brought into an amplified moment of renewing and nurturing my intention from the new moon. When my cycle contrasts that of the moon, it's a gentle reminder to work with nature, not against nature. While it can be disarming to be shedding while the moon is growing, it can also be a beautiful and poignant time. For me, it meant releasing, lots and lots of releasing. Releasing of the old beliefs, thoughts, and ideas that I had about life. I was releasing myself from an old way of maneuvering through my life. And with that came some feelings that needed to be seen, felt, witnessed, and embodied. Once cleared, my intention felt stronger. The more I listened and allowed, the more balance and ease I found, and some beautiful wisdom came through to carry me through the rest of this cycle. And the wisdom I heard was this: go slow. Stop spinning your wheels and hyper-focusing on doing. Care for your body through nourishing food, water, and intuitive movement. Tend to your garden. Stay with the moment, flow with your phases, track the cycle and the moon, and just keep going, slowly going. Because of this, I had the privilege of being on a friend's podcast where we were able to talk about working with archetypes and the importance of spiritual integration. It was a gift to show up to that conversation from a place of connection and ease, rather than force and control. The whole idea of working with archetypes is for spiritual integration. It is for coming into wholeness. It is for that specific aim that Carl Jung had about individuation. I mean, he says that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who we truly are. And that is through integrating the shadow as well as the light. However, as the moon grew closer to full, I felt the quickening of energy, a temptation to resort back to my tendency of doing too much all at once and taking on way too much. Instead, I got really quiet inside, reconnected to the wisdom of going slow and to move with deliberateness rather than that chaotic doing energy. I asked myself, where are my roots? Can I still feel my body? Is what I want to do being led by my soul, or is it being led by the world? On the day before the full moon, my nervous system was on the fritz. Due to all the space that going slow had afforded me, my old tendencies of spinning my wheels, overdoing, and over-efforting were knocking loudly once again. And it wasn't until 1 p.m. that day that I felt the urge to drive to the beach. The drive gave my mind something to focus on, while my body took time to regulate. And when I finally arrived at the beach, my heart was so full. Just smelling the ocean on the breeze and feeling the warm sun against my skin and listening to the waves crash against the ocean, I felt like I was free. The next initiation of my intention had been complete. I once again didn't allow myself to get sucked into the pace of the world around me, and instead gave my body and spirit what it needed, some nature time. The ocean beckoned me in. I washed myself in her cleansing waters, and I felt renewed, integrated, and centered. My soul full, my heart clear, and my mind steady for the full moon ahead and the next half of the cycle, the waning moon. That was exactly what my soul needed, and I'm so glad. My stubborn brain didn't talk me out of just going down for an hour or two. So good. Over the waning gibbous moon and last quarter moon, my body craved the earth, and the earth sought after me. In between all the meetings that I had, and the work, and the doings of the day, the earth called me outside. I spent time with the trees, the birds, and the thriving seedlings of the garden I had planted at the start of the lunar cycle. I gave myself completely over to the intention of this cycle and allowed ease, balance, and harmony to move through me, taking the time to enjoy the fruits of the first half of the cycle, to celebrate all the space that I had made, all the growth that I had cultivated, and to lavish in the new expressions that were taking root in my body, and still are. It's been a really incredible journey, and I'm really looking forward to this next cycle. I'm really looking forward to being back at Sky Pond and sitting in community with these lovely women and just getting just so into our internal worlds and landscapes and excavating the wisdom of this last cycle, and then planting new seeds and figuring out what this next cycle has in store. But yeah, this is my favorite phase because it really comes with a lot of reflection, and it can also be hard to hold the tension because in this space there is less light with the moon, and symbolically that represents like a turning inward, a going inward, a dying back. So this can be a time of uncomfortability for a lot of people, especially if like going slow and being still isn't like a predominant way of being in the world. So it has a lot to offer though, because it is a time to soak in all the wisdom that came from the last almost 30 days, this last moon cycle, to harvest what worked and then just to let it go, like literally let it go, because it's going to start over and we get another chance to just create something new. So I'm really looking forward to the new moon, and I hope that this video finds you in a place where you are very loving towards yourself, and despite the things that you wish were changing in your world, or despite the emotions that you may be having, or the thoughts and feelings that may be running through your brain, you know, I hope that you realize just how powerful you are, and that it's okay to rest, and that it's okay to slow down. I'm really looking forward to the next cycle, and I'm eager to see what comes through. If you're looking to deepen into working with the moon or your own cycle wisdom, I have an intimate online moon community for women called Sacred Moons, where we all meet 2 or 3 times a cycle to learn how to hold the thread of awareness and cultivate strong intentions in the context of community and connection. I also offer one-on-one moon mentorships, somatic healing sessions, and more. Sending you all so much love. I'll see you next cycle.